This is Geek News Central. My name is Todd Cochran, coming to you from the new media production studio. The lead stories are Artemis 1 is ready for a launch next Tuesday. The NTSB says all cars should come with tech to prevent drunk driving. Uber and Lyft drivers net less than $7 an hour after California law passed. And Starlink speeds dropped significantly in the United States amid congestion woes. I want to welcome you to episode 1623 of the Geek News Central podcast for Thursday, September 21st. This show is sponsored in part by GoDaddy.com and listeners just like you. Great deals from GoDaddy can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. You can support this show today at geeknewscentral.com/insider. Hey, I want to give a very warm welcome to all the new listeners of the show. Thanks for being here. Make sure you get over to geeknewscentral.com. Check out the podcast. Get over there and follow or subscribe to the show right on the website. You can also sign up for our newsletter while you are there. You can always join our chat room at geeknews.chat or our Discord channel. These links to those two sites are available in the show notes from the show today. You can always contact me via email, geeknews@gmail.com, or on Twitter. @geeknews is another place to reach me. Don't worry, there's a theme here. Of course, follow me on Facebook, Todd Cochran. Partner shows are all linked at geeknewscentral.com. That includes the new media show, The Gadget Pester with Mr. Don Bain, the GNC Week in Review with Kirk Corliss and Scott. Definitely check those shows out. Definitely get subscribed to them as well. This show, of course, is sponsored by the longest running continuous sponsor of podcasts. That's our good friends at GoDaddy. You can save deals at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy by using my non-expiring promo codes. Whether it be 30% off a new product purchase, a $4.99.com for new or transferred domains for new customers, along with $1.99 a month economy hosting for the first year, $1.99 a month economy hosting for the first year with a free domain name, or $2.99 a month managed WordPress hosting for the first year. Yes, $2.99 a month managed WordPress hosting for the first year with a free domain name as well. A free trial of GoDaddy Website Builder, your choice of personal, business, or business plus plans. That's a 1-month free trial. Those codes, those deals are available to you again at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. Geek News Central listeners save an average of 94% per purchase on GoDaddy hosting accounts and an average of $3.50 on each GoDaddy domain name. Your use and sharing of my codes keeps this podcast online, allows us to keep our writers paid, the rent paid, insurance paid, power bill paid, gas bill paid. You get the feeling. And any replacement equipment that has to be replaced here in the studio from time to time. So I definitely want to thank you for being a long time, thank GoDaddy for being a long time sponsor of the show, supporting the podcast. You too can really make good by going over and picking up a GoDaddy product or service, or sharing that promo code with a friend or family member, or even just simply linking to the website. Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I'm glad to be back with you. Again, apologize for no show on Monday. It was not planned, but my Monday event just went late. And when I finally got back, it was like almost 10 o'clock. There's just no way I could get a show out. All intents purposes, I left at 4 thinking it was going to be a quick turnaround, and it just did not happen. But my apologies for no show on Monday. But I'm back in the studio preparing for the podcast awards ceremony a week from tomorrow. And lots of things are on the move here. And one thing I've done this week is we're adding a new component to the show. As you know already, we stream live on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube Live. We're now also doing an audio stream again. It's been many years since we did an audio stream. You'll find that link at live.geeknewscentral.com or geeknewscentral.com/live so that you can listen to the show streaming only. And what's also going to happen on that stream is when it's not live, it'll go into rotation, and there'll be 2 or 3, maybe 4 episodes from a variety of shows that I like in that rotation that you can listen to on demand really at any given time. And why am I doing streaming audio? Say, Todd, you're already doing video. Why do we need audio? Well, there's an initiative called Podcast 2.0 that allows you to basically send out a signal when you go live in order to flip the apps into being able to listen to you while you're actually doing the show live. It sends out a notification. You can watch video or listen to the audio. So we're kind of getting that in place for the time in which the show will be enabling that technology. So we're getting ready to be lit. I guess that's the best way to describe it. Also, at the same time, I'm looking to grow the GNC family. So if you have thought about or are doing a podcast and would like to make an alignment here, just like the Gadget Professor does and Kirk does with his show, it's time to grow the family. It really is. So think about it. Send me an email, geeknews@gmail.com, if you'd like to join the GNC family and be part of the network and get cross-promotion. Love to consider your podcast to be part of this family and looking to grow it significantly. So just keep that in mind and let me know. So one thing I had happen to me yesterday was kind of a weird deal. I was I still have my trash can, I guess that's the best way to say it, MacBook, not MacBook, but Mac Pro. And I was doing some hard drive cleanup, and I accidentally grabbed an external drive folder and drug it into the trash can. It started to delete it, and I basically kept hitting stop. I didn't want to do that, and it wouldn't. And long story short, I corrupted the first external hard drive I've ever corrupted on a Mac. It won't it'll come up, it'll recognize it. It won't show up in the, actually, if I use disk utility, the drive doesn't even show in disk utility when it's plugged in. The hard drive still comes up, and the Lacy tool says, it's 2.4 gigs there. I have never seen a hard drive really become like unreadable. And I don't know, just a sequence of events that happened, and it is basically flipping me the bird and not letting me in. So any of you Mac users know of any external disk utility tools that work good? Otherwise I'm going to take this enclosure apart and pull that hard drive out and probably stick a different drive in there, I would think. It's a nice enclosure, so I don't know. It also allows me to hook up. It's Thunderbolt versus USB 3. Yeah, that drive's been around a while. So yeah, I've got plenty of other external hard drives, but I just like the case and the look of this particular one. So I don't know. It's just very, very strange what has happened here. But anyway, that's just an experience I had on the Mac. Never seen that before. But I was just in a hurry trying to clean up old editing files and stuff off the machine. Otherwise, everything else is fine and running with no issue. So that's gonna wrap. We did get some donations in via Boost. So I want to thank user 5933. If you're going to be using Fountain, make sure you enter your user credentials in the app so that I know who you are. But I got 500 sats from user 5933101, long extension. It's over the Blue Origin episode. I do want to thank you for that. I got a 5,000 sats from Scott's Cora, and Scott says, "I'm here, Todd, sending you pew pew." Scott from Talking Beards podcast. And we got 1,200 sats from another user on Fountain. So some of you are starting to use the Fountain app like I've been asking you to. And by listening to the show or other podcasts on the Fountain app, you earn Satoshis that you can donate back to the podcast. It's just like sending me cash just by using a different app. That's all I'm asking you. Go out there and use the fountain. If every one of you use the fountain app to listen to this show, and I know that's a big ask of you, literally, if you donated every Satoshi that you earned by listening on that fountain app back to the show, it would be huge. It would be really, really huge. So consider it. And anyway, the link to the fountain app and other of the new podcast apps are available as well. I'll put a link up in the show notes on that as well. So I hope you're all doing well. Glad to be back with you here. And again, lots of, I was kind of funny. I was digging up, I have a couple of Windows machines that I haven't run in a while. Fired it up, did a bunch of updates. One of them's running on Windows 10. And my old audio editing computer is on Windows 8, believe it or not. Couldn't believe it. It's still a great machine and does what it's supposed to do for the purpose. I don't edit on that machine anymore, but I was just trying to figure out which machine to run the streaming software, because the audio streaming software is nothing. It has no overhead whatsoever. It can run on a machine that was 10 years old. It wouldn't really matter. And what I dug up really was one of my older laptops, and one of them that's running Windows 10, that was able to run Windows 10. And I've got it sitting here on the counter now, just doing that single process alone. It's an older machine. It's probably 7 or 8 years old. It's again quite a bit older. So the overhead to do audio streaming is essentially nothing. It could actually run as a subtask on the MacBook, probably without any issue as well. But I like to kind of keep things where I can see how things are progressing. That's why mission control here is screen, and then a big screen in front of me, and I can watch everything. So anyway, just another piece, and we just continue to try to stay with some of the new things coming in podcasting that I'm excited about, that you should be too as well, of how we're trying to expand and add more features for you, the listener, to be able, ultimately hope to stay on any app that you want to be on and have some of these features. But many of these apps that are not adopting some of these new features, you should ask your current podcast app developer that you're listening to this show with, how come you're not adding Podcast 2.0 features? Ask them to add value for value. Ask them to support Lit. Ask them to support podcast transcripts. All these things that we're starting to bring to the space, that's very, very exciting. We have to get the app users or the app developers to start adding some of this. And you, as the user of that app, can influence the company or the organization that takes care of that app to add Podcast 2.0 features. And that will drive adoption, help all other podcasters to decide to do what I'm doing to be able to bring you a more immersive show. So anyway, that's kind of what's happening, my little pitch to you. And then we'll move on here to the regular stack of news and information that's out there. Also, I may start at some point giving more focus on trying to build the YouTube channel. So if you're watching on Facebook, think about moving to watching on live.geeknewscentral.com or newmediashow.com/live. If I start seeing those numbers pick up over there, I'll make my primary attention over there versus Facebook. So it's just a thought for those that that watch the show live from time to time. All right, first up, the NTSB says all cars should come with tech to prevent drunk driving. And they're calling for alcohol detection systems to be built into all new cars sold in the United States as early as 2026. And they basically say that every car should come with an alcohol detection system that would prevent driving their cars when drunk. On Tuesday, agency released reports citing the need for automakers in the U.S. to install these passive monitoring systems. These passive monitoring systems have little in common with devices that most people associate with alcohol detection in cars when you have been convicted of drunk driving. There's neither a handheld breathalyzer nor a litany of coordination tests. The non-invasive technology the NTSB is calling for would be fully integrated in new models. It's basically a series of sensors that monitor alcohol levels in air exhaled by drivers. What about passengers? You know, if you have a passenger, if you're the designated driver and you've got 3 or 4 intoxicated people in the vehicle, would that not impair the vehicle from operating when you are safe to drive? They're saying along with other touch-based sensors that read blood alcohol levels by using light, aka they want you to touch something before your car will start to make sure that you don't have alcohol in you. Their sensors could be mounted on the steering column behind the steering wheel, and touch sensors could be built into start-stop buttons. These systems would automatically test for unsafe alcohol levels and limit or prevent drivers from operating their cars if they are found to be impaired. According to Associated Press, development of drunk driving tech has been ongoing since 2008. The DADS group has led the advancement of the tech, which the NTSB says could be licensed by automakers. According to the AP, 11,654 people died in alcohol-related crashes in 2020. The NTSB cited a crash in 2021 that killed 2 adults and 7 children in California after a 28-year-old drunk driver crashed his SUV into a Ford F-150. We've all heard about these driving crashes. Now, in my opinion, this would not be good and probably not liked by most of the driving public. The NTSB has no regulatory authority, which is why it's only recommending that passive alcohol detections be installed. The NTSB is passing recommendations along to the NHTSA, which will have to decide whether to make alcohol detection systems mandatory by November 2024. So what say you? What say you about this particular type of technology being included in your vehicle? geeknews@gmail.com. geeknews@gmail.com is the email address to send your comments to. Love to hear your thoughts. Sadly, Uber and Lyft drivers net less than $7 an hour after California law passed driver-led studies fine. Proposition 22, which is in legal limbo after court deemed it unconstitutional last year, among other things, promises 120% of the state's minimum wage to gig workers. But according to the report developed by the National Equity Atlas and Rideshare Drivers United, which group says is the first driver-led study using directly collected earnings data and working conditions to access impact Prop 22, the reality falls far short of that promise. The ride-hailing companies and DoorDash were throwing millions of dollars at it, but not at me, says Dominique Smith, a driver for Uber and Lyft in the Bay Area during a news conference Tuesday. I definitely wasn't a fan of Prop 22 to begin with, and I'm not definitely a fan afterwards. The report is based on data from 12,500 rides by 55 drivers for Uber and Lyft, the 2 leading ride-hailing companies. Drivers' median gross pay, including bonus and tips, was $26.30 an hour, according to a report. To write the per-hour median take-home pay figure, report authors took into account the driver's hours worked, plus benefits they would be entitled to if they were considered employees, such as reimbursement for driving expenses, unemployment insurance, paid leave, workers' compensation, etc. But not all drivers are eligible for health insurance stipends under Prop 22. That was excluded from the calculation. Drivers are losing out on approximately $20 an hour because of Prop 22. So I wouldn't drive for $7 an hour. Go to McDonald's and make more than that. Insane. Anyone driving Uber and Lyft in California, I'd like to hear some ground truth on this. I really would. What say you? What's happening in California for those of you driving Uber and Lyft? And maybe that's why Uber and Lyft has been so expensive out on the West Coast. I don't know. Definitely not getting to the drivers, though. NASA has successfully completed vital Artemis 1 rocket fuel test. The next mission launch could take place on September 27th. The team determined a few days that the leak was triggered when the SLS rocket core booster tank went through a brief overpressurization. This is what they figured out was going on. Now, while the engineers encountered another hydrogen leak during the current field test, their troubleshooting efforts worked this time around, got the leak within allowable rates. So anyway, Artemis launch director Charlie Blackwell Thompson said the test went well, and the team was able to accomplish all the objectives set out to do. So they will decide if it can schedule another launch for the mission's target date of September 27th. So we will see if they're able to do this. And once again, American taxpayer dollars at work here. Meanwhile, Elon Musk and Starlink have launched a bunch of satellites. But Starlink's been in the news here a little bit, and I've even noticed this a little bit at the house. Starlink speeds dropped significantly in the U.S. amid congestion woes. Median download speeds for Starlink in the U.S. reached 62.53 megs during the second quarter, a significant decrease from 90 in quarter one, according to Ookla. During quarter two, April-June, the median download speed settled in at that 62.5 mark. Meanwhile, in Canada, the median download speed came in at 75.73, down from 97.4. And Ookla blames the falling speed on Starlink's popularity. Hundreds of thousands of customers have signed up. And for those of us in rural America, it has been a godsend. Now, let me tell you something. Please, if you live in a city and you can get high-speed internet, do not subscribe. If you can hook up to a Spectrum or a Comcast or somebody like that and get high-speed internet, please do not sign up for this service. Don't ruin it for those of us that are in these areas that have had no or little connectivity. They add that the network congestion problems seem to be affecting Starlink users worldwide. Starlink speeds decreased in every country they surveyed over the past year as more users sign up for service. So, significant drops across many continents. Starlink broadband quality in Europe remains significantly better than in North America. Europe are experiencing median download speed between 90 and 100. So they're saying that this data is one of the reasons that why the FCC decided last month to deny SpaceX and federal funding for the satellite internet service, which it might start making a little more sense. So they have capacity constraints. They need more satellites. So I hope Starlink starts to direct some more launches to serve their North American customers to make sure that the speed stays up here in North America. I think it should be North America first, but maybe they don't have that mindset. So time will tell. But one thing's for sure, they're going to need more satellites. It hasn't affected me yet. I've been pretty happy with the service, and the outages have been few and far between because I am definitely watching it. But yeah, I'd love to see that speed stay up around 100. I notice it slow down really in mid-morning and early evening, as you would expect. That's probably when peak usage is. Now, with this, in the sky getting more crowded, a group of satellite operators asked the SEC to reconsider its proposed 5-year window to remove orbital junk by adding language that would let them request waivers to exceed the limit. Iridium Communication, HughesNet, EchoStar, Luxembourg-based SES, and OneWeb, currently building a satellite constellation, said it will provide global broadband. The group asked the FCC to adopt explicit language recognizing that operators may seek and obtain waivers of the 5-year post-mission disposal rule for good cause, as well as establish objective criteria for evaluating waiver requests. Now, this is one thing Starlink is being very good about. They have the ability to deorbit their satellites. It's built into their platform. And it doesn't take 5 years to deorbit a satellite. It takes several months. The FCC proposed this new rule, which would reduce the period space operators have to remove retired equipment from low Earth orbit. Now, low Earth orbit is defined as below 2,000 kilometers. So that's a significant amount of satellite space. So they don't have 25 years to get rid of it. They have 5 years now. I think this is smart by the FCC. They said it was necessary to support the rapidly growing space economy. Satellites can stay in orbit for decades, careening around or increasingly crowded skies. There are now 4,800 satellites in low Earth orbit. Most of those, of course, probably Starlinks. But they want this old equipment out of the sky. Very easy to deorbit these things if they have built the technology into them to get them up, and also leave enough fuel on board or technology within them to get them deorbited. So we'll see what happens here. And if SpaceX is able to get their Starship off the ground, they're not going to hardly leave anything in space. They're going to put it up there and bring it back. There's going to be no boosters, nothing that's going to be left up there to wander around for a few years. So we'll see. At the same time, SpaceX wants to put Starlink internet on rural school buses. The pilot would keep kids online during lengthy rides home. So this is interesting. The SpaceX told the FCC in a filing it's piloting Starlink aboard school buses in the rural parts of the United States. The project would keep students connected during lengthy rides. In other words, school bus rides over an hour, ensuring they can complete internet-related homework in a timely fashion, even if broadband is slow or non-existent at home. They backed an FCC proposal to bring Wi-Fi to school buses and supported the regulator's effort to fund schools and library internet access through the E-rate program. So I think they're probably very, very well capable of this. But, those of you that are on boats, $5,000 a month to do Starlink on a boat. That's, probably for a big ship, that's not a big deal. But for someone that's on a catamaran or something, isn't going to work. So broadband, we all need it, want it. It'd be much easier if we could just get expansion into rural America. It really would. Seems like it'd be cheaper in the long run, don't you all think? Instagram is working on nudity protection technology for messages. We all know that unsolicited nude photos are a massive problem on social media or even via SMS, but Instagram is reportedly working on a tool that could help. Nudity protection technologies covers photos that may contain nudity in chat, giving users the option to view them or not. Meta says the aim is to help shield people from nude images or other unsolicited messages. As further protection, the company said it can view the image itself nor share them with third parties. We're working closely with experts to ensure these new features preserve people's privacy while giving them control over the messages they receive. The new feature is akin to Hidden Worlds tool launched last year that features allows users to filter abusive messages in direct message requests based on keywords. If a request contains any filter word you've chosen, it's automatically placed in a hidden folder that you can choose to never open, though it's not completely deleted. The feature is welcome but long overdue, as unwanted nude photos were largely ignored by social media companies and now a pervasive problem. So hopefully they get a handle on cyber flashing. The U.S. Senate has a panel. They've approved a bill to give news organizations more power against tech platforms. And this one's got me a little puzzled. Let me read that again. Senate panel approves bill to give news organizations more power against tech platforms. Well, what exactly is it? They voted Thursday to approve the bill aimed at allowing news organizations to band together to negotiate with Apple, Google, and Facebook to win more revenue. So why can't they do that on their own? Why aren't these organizations allowed to do their own forming up? Is it considered collusion if they do that? I don't understand. The bill is aimed at giving news and broadcast organizations more clout after years of criticism that big tech companies use their content to track traffic and add revenue without fairly compensating the publishers. So I don't understand why these news organizations can't do this on their own. When is the Senate and stuff going to start thinking about protection of creators? In a totally unrelated article, NASA and Hideo Kojima team up for a Ludens-inspired watch. So apparently they're going to go into a collaboration to design a more traditional non-smartwatch that is basically NASA-inspired. The watch was designed and will be sold by creative studio and watchmaker Unicorn, which previously worked with NASA on other watches and merch. It's not a smartwatch. It's an actual wristwatch called Space Ludens that's based on the gaming developer's mascot. Apparently, it's not the partnership itself that's unusual. Kojima Productions' mascot, after all, is a character called Ludens who wears an extra vehicle to activity spacesuit and is meant to be an astronaut exploring digital space. It's the fact that if they've collaborated on a watch, it's not even a smartwatch, it's Apple wristwatch. So, but there you go. So we know there's lots of NASA merch out there. The Space Ludens watch will be released in limited quantities on September 27th. Only 600 pieces will be available for purchase, and 100 of which will ship with a skull mask based on the one that's prominently featured in the Kojima production logo. It's going to cost you $1,000 to buy this watch. That baby better be really, really, really nice. Google's now offering a cheaper 1080p version of the Chromecast with Google TV. Buyers will get 6 months of Peacock Premium with it. This model, it's going to cost $30. Unlike the original $35 Chromecast, it comes with a remote control that eliminates the need for a smartphone, though you can control it with a mobile device as well. The other key feature is in the name. It's a lower 1080p resolution. The new device looks identical to the 4K model, which, by the way, is only $50. So all you really need is a TV that will support an HDMI port, and you'll be able to get Google TV. So pretty good deal there. Pretty inexpensive, if you ask me. What's new on Paramount Plus in October? Well, quite a bit of stuff. There's a whole list. I'll have the link in the show notes. I didn't mention this at the beginning of the show, and let me wait to the end. I've got to talk to you about where I'm going, and I'll talk about it at the beginning of the next show as well. But potentially 2 major trips coming for me here in the near future. One for sure, and a second is a maybe. Australia phone cyber attack exposes personal data. The breach exposed names, dates of birth, phone numbers, and email addresses. The company, called Optus, has more than 10 million subscribers, says it shut down the attack, but not before other details such as driver's license and passport numbers were also hacked. That's crazy. The company said it would notify those at a heightened risk, but all customers should check their accounts. So if you're an Optimus customer, be aware of that hack. Nintendo is releasing the first Mario movie trailer next month. Nintendo Animation Studio Illumination will debut the first teaser trailer for the upcoming Mario movie. We don't know exactly what to expect from the trailer, but fingers crossed we'll finally get to hear Chris Pratt's Mario's voice. So we know it was delayed from a holiday 2022 schedule to an April 2023 release. And it's got all kinds of interesting characters that are playing different parts. Florida is going to go to the Supreme Court. Let us regulate social networks as common carriers. The Florida law was blocked by lower courts that found it violates the First Amendment. Florida yesterday asked the U.S. Supreme Court to reinstate a social media regulation law that made it legal for sites like Facebook and Twitter to ban politicians. Florida's petition said the Supreme Court should answer the question of whether the First Amendment prohibits states from requiring that social media companies host third-party communications and for regulating the time and place and manner in which they do so. Now, there's two deals. The Texas one that is basically said their law can go forward. The Florida one that says they can't. So now it's probably going to go to the big house to make a decision. So the famous 11th Circuit, according to Florida, erred at the outset when it concluded the hosting regulation Florida social media law triggered heightened First Amendment scrutiny. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here. But as we talked on the last show, this is probably, we'll see if the Supreme Court takes it up. Facebook users, though, have sued Meta, accusing the company of tracking on iOS through a loophole. Apple's major privacy update to iOS last year made it much more difficult for apps to track users' behavior beyond their own borders. But a new lawsuit alleges that Facebook and Instagram parent company Meta kept snooping through a workaround. The complaint filed in the U.S. District Court of Northern District of California and embedded below alleges that Meta evaded Apple's new restrictions by monitoring users through Facebook's in-app browser, which opens links within the app. The proposed class action lawsuit, first reported by Bloomberg, could allow anyone affected to sign on, which in Facebook's case might be hundreds of millions of U.S. users. In the lawsuit, they allege it Meta is not only violating Apple's policy, but breaking privacy laws at state and federal laws, including the Wiretap Act, which made it illegal to intercept electronic communications without consent. The plates allege that Meta follows users' online activity by funneling them into web browsers built into Facebook and injecting JavaScript into the sites they visit. That code makes it possible for the company to monitor every single interaction with external websites, including where they tap and what passwords and other text they enter. This is serious. In a statement emailed to TechCrunch, a Meta spokesperson said the allegations were without merit and the company would defend itself vigorously. We have currently designed our in-app browsers to respect users' privacy choices, including how data may be used for ads. In the new iOS privacy prompt, Apple asks if users consent to have their activity tracked across other companies' apps and websites. Users who opt out might reasonably believe they are on an external web browser when opening links within Facebook or Instagram, though the company would likely argue the opposite. So we'll see. We'll see where this one goes. Apparently, there's going to be a new reporting site, but they've come out with a story early called Semaphore. They're saying that former President Donald Trump could be allowed back on Facebook once a suspension of his account expires in 2023. Nick Clegg, a parent company Meta platform, said Thursday an exclusive Semaphore exchange event in Washington, D.C. As the company makes its decision, it will talk to experts, weigh the risk of real-world harm, and act proportionally, he said. It's the first time Clegg, who as president of Global Affairs is charged with deciding whether to lift the limit, has publicly discussed his thinking. So we'll see if they're going to let the former president back on Facebook. Verizon has rebranded TracFone prepaid service, including Disney Plus, with some plans. So TracFone service following the 2020 acquisition and the reborn service might pique your interest in the right circumstances. The new launch Total appears built to compete against big prepaid carriers like AT&T's Cricket, T-Mobile's Metro. In addition to more competitive rates than Verizon's self-branded option, you get a few extra perks. Every plan offers 5G, unlimited calling and text, Canada and Mexico. $50. If you're on a $50 or $60 plan, you'll get Disney Plus with this. Oh, service does start at $30 per month. So if you're on a higher tier on TracFone, you'll get more. I know a lot of people that use TracPhones. If you're an NFL fan, Amazon scored big with the first Thursday night football game. Nielsen says 13 million viewers watched the September 15 contest on Prime Video and local over-the-air affiliates. They guaranteed 12.5 and they hit 13 million. Meta has been ordered to pay $175 million in patent infringement case. The company intends to contest a ruling in favor of walkie-talkie app maker Voxer. Now, I don't remember this at all. Maybe a little bit. In 2006, Tom Cadis, the founder of Voxer, started working on a way to resolve communication problems he faced while serving in the U.S. Army in Afghanistan. Cadis and his team developed tech that allows for live voice and video transmissions, which led to Voxer debuting the walkie-talkie app in 2011. According to the lawsuit, soon after Voxer released the app, Meta, then Facebook, approached the company about a collaboration. Voxer is said to have revealed its proprietary technology as well as its patent portfolio to Meta, but two sides didn't reach an agreement. Voxer claims that even though Meta didn't have a live video or voice service back then, identified the walkie-talkie developer as a competitor and shut down access to Facebook features such as Find Friends tool. So, meanwhile, Meta debuted Facebook Live in 2015, and Cadis claims to have had a chance meeting with Facebook Live product manager in 2016 to discuss alleged infringement of Voxer patents, but Meta declined to reach a deal with the company. So they're going to have to pay $175 million. Of course, Meta says they're going to appeal. Over 1 million Teslas are being recalled because Windows can pinch fingers. So I've never stuck my finger in the window when it's tried to roll it up. I guess they're not supposed to pinch your finger. It's interesting. I've never knew that there was a standard for power windows, but I guess there are. If you're on Facebook or YouTube tonight or on Twitch or Twitter, make sure you say hello. Victrola made a $799 turntable that can connect to any Sonos speakers. If you love vinyl and streaming music, the Stream Carbon might be for you. Lots of other options out there, people. Lots of other options that are wired and Bluetooth. $799 is very, very expensive for a turntable. It better be offering something dramatic. Ars Technica has a great one that's on the market right now, much lower cost. I've got the lineup for Netflix in October 2022. That'll be in the show notes. As a follow-up to the last show, Disney CEO says he'd love to merge Hulu into Disney. But again, a lot of it really rides on the ongoing negotiations with Comcast. So we'll see what happens with that. Google's make it even easier to remove your personal info from search. So Google Results is about you. It's a tool meant to simplify the process of removing search results that contain personal identifying information, starting to roll out to some users according to a report from 9 to 5 Google. Google announced a feature earlier this year during its I/O conference, saying it'd be coming to the Google app. Google already had a way to remove search results that contain your home address, email address, phone number, map data, a bunch of other stuff. But now you'll be able to remove a lot of your search. This is good. And but they probably, for legal constraints, probably still have to hold that for a number of years. So details on that are linked in the show notes. Microsoft will host its next Surface event on October 12th. And by the way, I have been able to play with Microsoft 11 a little bit. It is much better. than Microsoft 10. Just in my initial, it's not as annoying. I guess the best way to say it, it's not as annoying. I know we still have a lot of Windows users out. How are you getting along with Windows 11? Love to hear your feedback. But again, they're going to host its next Surface event on October 12th. You may get a proper look at the Surface Pro 9 and Surface Laptop 5. Charter is not going to have to pay $7 billion after cable installer murdered a woman. They're just going to have to pay $1 billion instead. A Dallas judge has reduced the amount Charter Communication must pay the family of a subscriber murdered by one of its Spectrum cable technicians. Last year, Spectrum technician Roy Holden Jr. admitted he murdered 83-year-old Betty Thomas, a Charter customer, in 2019 in her home using a Charter-issued knife and gloves. The day before the killing, he showed up to carry out a repair job as requested and returned the next day unannounced using a van he is able to take from a Charter site even though he was not scheduled to work. It was said he killed the grandmother after she caught him going through her purse looking for bank cards to steal. Holden was sentenced to life behind bars. And then in July of this year, a jury decided Charter owed Thomas's family $7.3 billion in damages. Judge Joanne Rentier's ruling on Monday adjusts that amount down to $1.1 billion, split between Thomas's 4 children and her estate. The original compensatory damage of $337 million were unchanged, but Judge lowered punitive damages intended to punish Charter to a total of $750 million. And apparently, Charter's been paying on that. So the Holden family, this guy's the killer's family, is responsible for $37.5 million of that. With Holden prison, it's likely his share of the damage will fall on Charter as well, though. So absolutely disgusting. Okay, so I've been hinting at a trip. I'm probably going to Saudi Arabia to a conference of 15,000 creators. It's an event that's being held by one of the ministries there. I've been invited to come out to speak. So it's a good opportunity to go out and talk about podcasting. I've had extensive conversations with the event organizers. I'll be able to present as I want to present without restrictions. So potentially, I'm 99% sure I'll be going to that in mid-October. And then on the second piece of this, I'll potentially will be going to Brisbane, Australia in November. Potentially, not guaranteed yet. Waiting on the details on that, if I'm being invited to that or not. Again, to speak on podcasting as well. So pretty crazy times. So just to let you know what's going on with the show. A full schedule next week. And then first week of October, there will be a Monday show, but there will be no show on October 6th as I'll be in Reno for a military squadron reunion. I'm already preparing my kidney and liver, to be honest with you. But we'll be continuing cranking here shows for the next couple of weeks. But thanks, everybody, for being here. My pleasure to bring you the show today. geeknews@gmail.com. geeknews@gmail.com is the place to send your comments to. Love to hear any feedback you may have for me. And, I did get one comment that came in. And let me go down here. It came from Albert. And I guess he just says thanks in the email. So I guess it's from me mentioning his comments in the last show. So thank you, Albert, for that. But again, thank you for those of you that boosted the show using the Fountain app. It's my pleasure to turn you on to that. Let me know how you like it, one way or the other. Again, it's my pleasure to bring you the podcast tonight. We'll be back with you on Monday for another edition of the Geek News Central podcast. Everyone take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.